where is Jackass in all of this stuff that we've been talking about, from time that you're, a kid, you're skating, and then there's addiction, and then there's sobriety? Where does Jackass
that
come
comes in again? My timeline is really blurred, but in the mid-20s, it starts kind of.
Okay. Is this pre-addiction or
like
during?
During,
yeah.
thick of it.
Yeah.
Viva la Bam. Viva la Bam is what I started with first.
Okay.
And that Bam had offered me the opportunity to live with him in Westchester and leave Baltimore.
Okay.
In hopes to get off heroin, start skating again, and him and I kind of pick up where we left off.
Gotcha.
That was the plan in theory. The old saying, you want to make God laugh, tell me how your day's going to go.
Yeah.
It didn't go that way. Okay, let's put it in perspective here. My very first tattoo that I ever got, at when Bam, it was like, come move with me, we'll start skating again. You could be on Viva la Bam, you just got to stay off drugs. And I couldn't stay clean. And I'd make an excuse up that I had to go back to Baltimore to get my favorite pair of jeans. And I would just disappear in Baltimore for weeks. And he would give me another chance and I'd come back. But he was just trying to do the best that he could to understand a really not understandable problem to him. And he's like, dude, we're going to get you a tattoo and it's going to say no more fucking heroin. And every time you look at it hopefully you'll look at it and you'll not get high, which did not work. But that was my very first tattoo that I ever got right here.
That's hilarious.
So that was my
first tattoo ever.
Wow. right out of the gate. Not like,
That's
mom or girlfriend's initials or like my side, like no more fucking heroin, big and bold.
Oh man, didn't work though.
No, clearly not.
Yeah.
If only it were that simple.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, that was my introduction to that world. And it took a lot of tries and attempts, and I'd live with him. And I remember his parents even saying, why do you keep letting Novak back? Like, he's going to hurt you. He's going to let you down. He's going to steal from you. He's going to lie to you.
Yeah.
And I did all that in abundance. And he would always give me another chance when he believed that I really wanted it. Not like, oh, sure, just come on back. But like I had to show some effort. And it took ultimately, but way later down the road than we all expected.
Yeah.
And so this Dream Seller was the book that I wrote while I was still getting high and loaded. I wrote this under the influence like crazy. And the only reason why I wrote this book, I had no high school diploma at the time. I had no GED when I had written this, literally expelled from 11th grade as a direct result of my addiction. Cut to, I'm living at Bam's house. We're filming Viva la Bam. And every day we'd finish filming and we'd all go out, the cast and the crew, and we'd have a dinner at a bar. And it would be a table of, 30 people or so, drinking, food, fun times. And he was always very entertained and amused by my stories of addiction, the places it put me in, the people it surrounded me with, right? The choices that then became a life.
Yeah, I mean, still crazy stories.
Yeah, totally. And so he'd be like, tell this story, tell that story. And I would tell the story at a table of 30 or 40 in a bar, and you could hear a pin drop. So one day, Bam said, all right, new deal. Because at this time, he's let me live with him. I can be on the TV show. I can get paid by Viacom. I can have a car. I can have a credit card. I just can't do heroin or opioids. I can do like cocaine and alcohol because it's socially acceptable and, whatever. But no downers, because then I like steal shit. I total cars. I go to jail. So he said, all right, new rule. You're going to write a book. You're going to take a pen and a paper. And the moment that I don't see you, you don't have to be writing, but the first time that I don't see you with that pen and paper in your hand, you're going back to Baltimore. And I'm like, fuck. I don't want to write a book. Yeah. I have no desire. I don't even own a laptop. I've never, to this day, I got my first ever laptop during the beginning of COVID. And it was not by my design. My team said that I needed it for interviews.
Yeah, right.
And then I gave it to my treatment center that they use for Zoom shit. I don't email.
Yeah.
I pen. So I wrote this book. You can see on one of the picture pages. I wrote this book all pen and paper. And my So, see the background of that?
Oh yeah.
That's legit, like the book behind the pictures. I wrote the book, pen and paper.
That's wild.
I wrote it in 12 chapters. There's a guy named Joe Franz. Joe Franz filmed the CKY videos.
Okay.
Those are what Bam made his first million on.
Okay.
That's what began his career with being a household name. And Joe Franz filmed the CKY videos. Then Joe Franz became a filmer for Viva la Bams and then the Jackasses. But he was also a professor, really smart guy. So Bam tasked Franz with the position of being my co-author. And Franz is like, please do not do this to me.
Basically made him
Don't,
chief babysitter.
Legit.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I go to, right, no fool by any means, man. If I believe it, I can see it. All right, I don't want to write a book. I do love talking about these stories where heroin took me because I can go back there without physically going back there. So it was this weird euphoric place that allowed me a little reprieve from being normal.
Yeah, sure.
I looked at as like a problem.
Right.
And so I went to Barnes & Noble. A team captain from Element, my old team captain, Kingman, he gave me a book one day. He gave me a book called A Million Little Pieces by James Frey, which now is turned into a movie, but that book made it on Oprah's book club. Yeah. I loved that book. And his book was written in 12 chapters. So I copied his outline. I wrote it in 12 chapters. About a year later, I go to Bam and I'm like, I think I'm done. I didn't want to write the book, but I didn't want to go back to being homeless in Baltimore.
Yeah, right.
Like,
that sounds worse.
I'm becoming a household name. I'm getting paid by Viacom. I'm fucking use the money to get more drugs. Like, it's an amazing thing.
Right.
Just party, whatever. So
yeah,
I mean,
it's in terms of being like a 20-something-year-old addict, like that's a pretty sweet setup. That's like the best way to do it. You know what I mean?
Which was probably terrible for my alcoholic brain because if you look at it, the parallels of the role that I played in those movies and TV shows, as opposed to my addicted life, were a junkie's dream. Right? The more outrageous my behaviors were, the more outlandish my antics became. Yeah. The higher the ratings went, the more in demand I was, the more money I made, which then allowed me to buy more drugs. So just a wash, rinse, repeat. Yeah. But nonetheless, I write this book, and about a year later, I go to Bam. I think I'm done. And he reads it like, fuck. So he gives it to Joe Franz. Joe Franz turns 12 chapters into 23 chapters. Jeez. We shop it around. Bam's agent at the time, Terry Hardy, gets me a literary agent because no one gives a fuck about who I am at that point. But Bam makes this happen, and a whole lot of no's, and we come to an agreement with Kensington Publishers, Citadel Press. And this book was recently revised in its 12th edition. Now, for people who don't really understand the literary world, which why would you if you don't? I didn't. 98% of books aren't revised past their first edition. Yeah. This is revised in its 12th edition.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the more revisions happen, they are continually excited about getting the book out. Correct?
This thing keeps selling and selling and selling. And so it became crazy successful. But I wrote Under the Influence. Then I went to treatment. And then I just wrote recently, I'd say a few years ago, the sequel to this, which is called The Streets of Baltimore, which just came out. And the reason why I'm getting into all this, in that book, which I also both did the narrations for, so you can get them on audiobook, is me reading it, which is a really interesting fucking process. But The Streets of Baltimore talks about my psyche going through that whole process of Viva la Bam, Jackass, literally being handed the keys to this kingdom, all the while knowing underliningly that my addiction is going to rip this out from under me. And although I want it so bad, I know that it's only temporary because it's only a matter of time before I go back to fucking like shooting. And it happened. Yeah. But I really break down like what my mental state looked like. And that was depressing. That was doing all this rad shit, man. Yeah. Like I'm like hanging out at the Playboy Mansion, doing TRL with Jay-Z and Mariah Carey. And the day that his album Best of Both Worlds dropped, and like really, and that's just the beginning of it, that to knowing that it's only temporary and that like,
And that even then,
I'll return back.
yeah.